The premise itself is dumb and silly, but I think it is incredibly smart about the way it divvies out its information. This is not a film that cares about exposition, not because it's not intelligent enough to have the exposition, but because the characters learn it through actual actions that they would take in that situation to learn that information. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spoiler Warning Podcast. This is review number 526 with our review of Overlord. I'm Christopher Schnese.
And I'm Stephen Miller.
And for joining us for the first time, the Spoiler Warning Podcast is a weekly film review program. Each week on the show, we're going to dive in, debate, discuss, and argue over the latest film releases coming to a theater near you. In the coming weeks, some of us are going to be doing some traveling. Actually, all of us are going to be doing some traveling over the next several weeks. Stephen will be moving. A lot of things are happening. So our release schedule may get a little hectic and crazy. We're going to do our best to bring you as many reviews as we can. We're sitting down to record 5 reviews for you tonight.
That's how much we love you.
So it's going to be a rough night for us, but hopefully it equals good episodes for you guys.
I want the record to show too. This means I went to the theater I saw all of this weekend starting Friday night. It's been a long weekend.
Yeah. So we're going to bring these episodes to you. We may be bringing you 3 episodes next week before we take off, and these are all going to trickle out over the coming weeks. So hopefully you appreciate these when these come out and stick for them. This is going to be the first of this big batch. We're talking about Overlord, the latest film coming out of Bad Robots. Once upon a time, this was maybe going to be shoehorned into the Cloverfield series. That is apparently no longer the case.
I didn't catch the reference if it was.
Yeah, you could make an argument that there are ways that it could still be connected after the ending of this film, but clearly they abandoned that plot. But obviously, in the original plan, that wasn't technically part of the plot anyways, so we're okay.
Yep.
But yeah, we're here to talk about Overlord. Because we have so much going on tonight, we're kind of just going to dive into the episode. So we're going to take a listen to the trailer and then come back and give you that review.
3 months ago, I was cutting grass in my front yard. And the mailman shows up with a letter from the army. Now I'm here. No idea where I'm going to end up.
Welcome to France.
What happened here? Some questions don't have good answers.
There's a lot of soldiers out there, and there's only 4 of us.
Find out what's inside that compound. What is this?
A 1,000-year army.
These 1,000-year soldiers. What's behind that wall?
What do you do with those people?
They have been given a purpose.
All right, so that was the trailer for Overlord. It is about a small group of American soldiers that are shot down behind enemy lines the day before D-Day, and they have one mission, which is to take out some radio towers so that all the other troops can come storm everything that's going on. While they're trying to infiltrate this base where this radio tower is, they come across some experiments that the Nazis are doing that we'll get into in a little bit. Stephen Miller, what did you think of Overlord?
So I should say going in, my expectations were quite low for this movie. Someone in the office today mentioned the trailer being great, and I did not feel that way at all. When I saw the trailer for Overlord, I was like, oh God, this is going to be like, it's going to try to be like a fun horror movie night type of thing. It's going to try to be like a throwbacky genre thing, but it's just going to be painful, and it's going to shoehorn into Cloverfield for no good reason. Like, I was not looking forward to it very much at all. I almost didn't even see it this weekend, except Chris texted me and said, like, by the way, if you do see Overlord, I will defend it like vociferously on the podcast or something to that effect. And I gotta say, I saw it on a Saturday morning. Low expectations, just like expecting to enjoy a couple hours away from the smoke that is devastating our city right now. And I thought it was great. I had a total blast with this movie. It is like, it's dumb, of course, but I think it paces itself quite well, and it's like pretty viscerally entertaining the whole time. It's goofy on the right level, and it knows when to deliver the action goods and when to give you heart is the wrong word, but it goes through enough tropes with the main hero, at least, that you feel like I want to root for him by the end. Like it plays the hero's journey pretty nicely. I actually think part of this is due to the intro of this movie. I think it just opens in the middle of the action. This is not a movie that tries to gently introduce us to all the characters. It felt very much like Fury when it began to me, where it's just a crowd of people who are like talking about how they're being thrust in this war. It had a first man element where like they're trapped in this little aircraft and everything is just shaking, and you're like, oh shit, war is crazy, right?
Yeah.
And this movie like did a pretty good job at the beginning of just having this absurd kind of comic booky feeling of like entering the battlefield and the mayhem that ensues. And yeah, I don't know, just from beginning to end, it was fun. Like, some characters are more amusing than others, right? Like, you can kind of tell from the very beginning like what redemptive or not redemptive arcs people are going to go on. But like, it's still a joy to watch them get there. By the time the zombie stuff happens, like, you're ready for it. I kind of wish we didn't have to wait for him to discover what we've already all known since we decided to watch this movie. It's kind of like an hour into the movie, I think, before we really get the payoff of that.
Yeah.
I would have appreciated them hurrying that a bit more, but I had fun. I had a smile on my face most of the time. I was never really bored. I was never impatient. And like, by the end of the movie, I think it goes out guns blazing in a very entertaining way. You could compare it to a lot of things. I think Captain America, the First Avenger, obvious similarities there in the types of villains and lead characters that you're rooting for.
That the villains are the Nazis?
Well, yeah. The villains are Nazis who are trying to make like a superhuman race, and someone decides to become, a self-imposed victim of that experiment. Wonder Woman also meets this criteria. Like, this is a well-worn villain archetype, basically. This person who is the evil
somebody with a fucked up face wants to become a god.
Yeah, the evil SS guy whose face gets fucked up and is like, I'm gonna become invincible now. Yeah. But the fact that it's well trod doesn't make it any less enjoyable for it. I thought the cast, who are pretty much all relative unknowns except for Wyatt Russell, they did a good job. Like, they were a good fresh face. I imagine, I did not do my homework, I imagine this must have been somewhat low of a budget for that reason. But if it was, like, it looks
38 million.
Yeah, so it looks good for 38 million. I think like they like made you feel like you are in World War II. This isn't Saving Private Ryan or anything, but like I think they did a good job with what they had. And yeah, I had fun. I had that kind of like Fury thrill ride, but where it's like the villains are such obviously fake people that it was easier for me to just get into the comic book mindset and be like, hell yeah, kill those fucking Nazis, not worry so much. So yeah, I had fun.
Yeah, I thought this film was great. I thought it was pretty damn good. Which I pretty damn good was supposed to be an increase off of great, but I think it's because good is less than great. Anyways, I thought this thing was pretty spectacular, and I think that it was because it actually tried harder than it ever needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
This was going to be a big, silly war film about killing zombie Nazis.
And be Wolfenstein the movie.
Basically. Yeah, no, exactly. It was just supposed to be an over the top gore fest of like crazy things coming at you and like some combination of Wolfenstein or Doom, and like that's just what I expected from it. But what I got was actually an incredibly intelligently plotted film. The premise itself is dumb and silly, right? Just like, oh, we're turning into Nazis and weird things happen. But I think it is incredibly smart about the way it divvies out its information. This is not a film that cares about exposition, not because it's not intelligent enough to have the exposition, but because the characters learn it through actual actions that they would take in that situation to learn that information. Obviously, none of our Americans speak German. There's not going to be scenes, like, for some reason, some of the German soldiers speak English, which is fine, I guess. But like, what was amazing to me is we go in, like, you had a minor criticism about how it takes so long to get into, like, show us the Nazi zombies. That's what we want. But what I loved about this film is that, no, this isn't about, hey, there's a bunch of Nazi zombies, let's go fight them. This is a film about a natural progression of, hey, they're doing some experiment. We don't know what it is. I've only witnessed these little pieces. There's an actual evolution between this other conflict that is happening that gets us to the point where we witness what happens when you inject somebody with the serum. And like what I expected from this film was evil Nazis go like, we're going to inject you. Here you go. Oh no. And then you've turned into this thing. But this was really like a natural progression of, hey, I have this thing, which I brought back because this is part of my mission. A situation arises where I decide to use it for something. Now I understand the consequences of that. And it was just this, I was just amazed how it was just set up and payoff, set up and payoff, set up and payoff, set up and payoff, like continually throughout this film, even down to the like torturing the SS person with a very particular implement. And then there's a scene where somebody gets knocked down and that implement is just hanging on their chest conveniently. And it's like, of course he's going to use that because why would he not? And I was constantly surprised by the way this film was like. It's like somebody was like, if I have to write this fucking movie, I'm going to write the shit out of it and make sure that everything makes sense and that you can logically follow characters' motivations and decisions to the point at which we get taken into the story. And I just think that there's no reason they had to do that for this film, but they actually made something that didn't insult the audience and was like, oh no, this is like, if this situation was real, this is how we would get into the situation, understand the situation, and respond to the situation. And it just, it had this sense of caring about the film as if it was more important than it actually was. And because of that, I just love the film.
Nice. I can't really disagree with that, except for I think, so okay, it definitely does have the like setup, payoff structure. I don't know that everyone behaves as they really would. For instance, when I say it was like dragging out the big reveal a bit, I mean the lead character Boyce has already been in a place where he saw crazy shit like multiple times.
But no, he heard crazy shit and he saw some things that were partially weird, but he had no idea the ramifications of what that was.
Partially weird, like a severed head talking is partially weird.
He sees that later.
He sees that before the first injection moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
so there are things like that. Again, it was fine. It was tropey. It's just like the movie knows that we already know what it's going to be. So there was just a little bit there where I felt like it could have given me like double the zombies given that screen time.
Yeah. But I mean, like, for instance, when he sees one of the SS doctors inject somebody with the serum, he sees it injected to a corpse, which spasms and then nothing, and then they take the body away, right? Mm-hmm. He has no understanding of what that was, what it meant, or what just happened there. But later on, he's in a situation where he's like, I don't have any other reason. Like, there's nothing left to do. Might as well do this last-ditch effort to do something, right? Like, and there are moments like that where it doesn't feel like do because plot. It feels like everything is justified and the actions that are taken are justified. And I feel like moments of triumph are earned and not just like, well, this is where somebody's got to be a hero. It's like somebody being thought of as one thing and then becoming another. You know, I don't know. I just really...
Like the Guido character. I enjoyed his...
his coming around on
Yeah.
Boyce. Yeah. I think that there was just like a lot of things that it did to actually try to justify the actions that were being taken when it could have just been like a really dumb film where they're running around and shooting these weird creatures.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. I also, some of those setup and payoff things I liked, even though you could call them early. Like there was a moment with the baseball that I thought like, I know exactly what you're going to do. And this fits perfectly in this like part of the story that you want to tell. Also, even though like I felt like it held out on the zombies longer than necessary, like it never went hardcore Henry on you. It never went like just action. It kind of it was surprisingly restrained in the amount of like overwhelming action it wanted to show you. The large chunk of the movie that is basically just a normal World War II movie of them like trying to hide out somewhere, trying to plan their next move. I thought that was pretty like decently done actually. Like that was a pretty well done version of that story. I almost forgot for a second that it was going to be a zombie movie and I was supposed to be waiting for the zombies to strike.
Yeah.
I do want to mention that the bad guy I just realized is Euron Greyjoy. I didn't make that connection when I saw him.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Right?
All the movies we're talking about are going to have some connection back to Game of Thrones.
I know. I think that's going to be true. But yeah, I don't know. Like, so here's a question. How do you feel this would have played if they had tied it directly into the Cloververse? Do you think it would have elevated the Cloververse, or do you think the tie-in would have dragged it down somehow?
So I think that it could have been done I think that if they had tied this into the Cloververse, that the tie-in would have happened either post-credit sequence or mid-credit sequence, right? Mm-hmm. You can have this film not change a single bit, but following the line that the debrief guy back in the tent at the base says, like, you can immediately smash cut to something, right? And that would justify the connection all you need, right? I think that it'd be easy to tie it in with it being the equivalent of the ending to Split, right? Where, like, that whole film is just this weird movie about this guy who one of his split personalities is a demon. Right. And then suddenly at the end, it's like, oh shit, this is an Unbreakable.
Yep.
You could literally do the same thing, but I think that payoff would have been lessened by the fact that people were talking about it in the months leading up to it, and the fact that the Cloverfield paradox sort of created a new explanation for the creation of the Cloverfield monster. Mm-hmm. So I think that they could do it without hurting the film itself, but they don't necessarily benefit from having done it. It's like because even up until the credits started, I was still like, I pulled out an app on my phone. I was like, oh, no post-credit sequence or anything. There must not be doing it. But I was still willing to accept that it could be still having a tie-in. But yeah.
There was no mid-credits either, right? I left like immediately.
So no, yeah, it just ended. But yeah, I still think this film though is just really fun, and the action itself too is the moments of action, right? It's not that the choreography is so great, but it
has geography that you understand at least.
It has geography that you understand, but it also has a sense of guns are powerful, right? This isn't like a normal film where it's just like people ducking out from behind rocks and going like pew 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 pew, and everybody just has like a bunch of bullets. This is like unload an entire clip that hits all over a fucking wall. It's not like everybody has precision. I mean, the sniper guy has precision shots, but like everyone else is kind of just like spraying and praying, and you really get the sense that like, I mean, I also saw it in the Dolby Theater, right? Like I was pumping shit going, you know, it really, there was impact to the weaponry and stuff like that. And I was impressed by how scary, quote unquote, the use of guns was in like World War II, right? Just guns seemed crazy and powerful, and there was something impressive about that too. That made it feel like there was real danger for these soldiers. These weren't just like all these pro elite soldiers running around shooting people like Rambo. It was like, yeah, at any second you could just get like killed horribly in like a just a hail of gunfire. And there was a impact to the bullets.
Yeah,
so.
definitely. I think so. I still think the standout scene for me was the opening. I just think that was like a really good frenetic way to kind of get you into this movie, and like show the chaos of like the bullets flying and like nobody has a clue what they're doing, right? Like that's kind of the thing that they're trying to convey. And then I also think there's an infiltration scene that's done really well where different characters are in different positions trying to collectively, you know, bring this plan of how to break into this place. I think that was really fun. Like, I think the action was super good there.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, just the scenes of hand-to-hand combat, I think were well done. Like, not just the fair ones, but also the more torturous ones. But there are moments where, like, you're kind of rooting for a character, and then it takes a turn, and you're like, I don't know that I'm rooting for you anymore. And I think it, even though, again, it telegraphs that well, like, you know who is redeemable and who isn't and all that. Like, it did its job fine. Like, I don't think it didn't say anything too grand, but I think it played the notes it was supposed to play, like you said, like better than it needed to. Like this was written better than it had to be to get the same kind of crowd-pleasing thrill across.
Yeah. And like we talked recently about Halloween, and one of the things that makes Michael Myers so scary is that he just, no matter what, he's this pure evil force that just keeps coming, right? Mm-hmm. And we have plenty of pure evil forces in this film that just keep coming no matter how many bullets you put into them.
Yeah, the bad guy Hoffner almost has this like Michael Myers moment repeatedly where it's like, I'm alive again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say, so this wasn't a particularly scary movie. Everyone knows I'm a wimp. That's kind of a common theme in this podcast. But the first jump scare where we technically see our first zombie character
through the door seal?
Through the door, that got me so good. That got me so good. I was like, I might have to like leave for a second.
I might have to go wipe
exactly.
myself. Yeah, no. I mean, I think too. There's a fast moving zombie in the film that I thought was pretty frightening as well. Mm-hmm. Just, I mean, like, it's not that it's frightening; it's that it's creepy as fuck, and it's fast moving and kind of terrifying.
Yeah, I'm sure I've seen this kind of zombie somewhere else before, like recently, and I can't think of where. Like the really fast moving, overly like wet and shiny variety of bad guy.
I mean, the 28 days and weeks later.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of something like
World War Z.
I have no idea.
With the wall of zombies.
Maybe it was World War Z.
But yeah, I mean, basically, all in all, I just gotta say that this film was fantastic.
I'll give it fun. I had a good time. I don't know how great exactly it is on the scale of damn good to great to whatever is below great, but I had fun. I had a lot more fun than I expected to, and I anecdotally know some people who have been on this podcast did not have fun with it, but otherwise I want to say I don't see how anyone could not have at least like a pretty good time watching this movie.
Cool. Well, should we get to verdicts for the film then?
Sure.
All right, Stephen Miller, if you're going to give us a must-see, a recommend with a caveat, wait for rental, pass with a caveat, or a must-avoid, what would you give it?
I'm giving it a recommend with a caveat. I think it's a fun movie, worth catching in theaters if you see it all, because it's a big theater experience, and I think like even though it doesn't look quote expensive or whatever, like the money's there. It's like a big event, and I think like it has its jump scares that are definitely going to get you a lot better on a big screen than it is in a on Netflix while you're on your phone doing something else at the same time. And it's just big, silly fun. With that said, the caveat, it's just big, silly fun. Like you said, like the guy who made this movie didn't need it to be this good, but he was like, screw it, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it right. I still don't know why they had to do it necessarily, but I agree they did it right. So
yeah.
So that's basically where I'm at. I think it was a lot of fun. It was like hardcore Henry to me too. It was just like, it was fun. It was like an interesting idea to like execute and take seriously, and that doesn't necessarily mean I know, like, I don't know. Your mileage may vary, but I think you're gonna have a good time at least.
Listeners, your mileage may vary, but I think this is a must-see. I thought it was great. I thought it was way better plotted than it needed to be, and it was intelligently put together, and I was just impressed. Like, at every single turn where I was like, oh shit, if they pay this up, and they paid it off. And it's like constantly I was being surprised by them actually weaving narrative threads to a film that doesn't need to do anything. Mm-hmm. Like, the elevator pitch for this movie is like, what if like soldiers landed in a Nazi camp that had zombies and they have to not die, but also take out a radio tower.
That's like a long elevator too. The short elevator is Nazi zombies.
Zombies, yeah. I'll say it one more time in case you didn't get it. Nazi zombies. But yeah, like it was like an experiment that turned into like. Remember, no, I'm not even gonna make the comparison.
Remember in Carol?
No, I was gonna say that like. Remember in our review of Swiss Army Man, where I was like, I'm willing to concede that this could have been a joke that turned into like what I think is an incredibly intelligent film. I feel like somebody was like, if I had to, like somebody like literally sat down and was like, all right, I'm going to have my kind of fun, which is actually make this make sense and try to come up with something that is really smart. So yes, it's zombies trying to build 1,000-year soldiers or Nazis trying to build 1,000-year soldiers that accidentally turn into zombies, but it's also smartly plotted and really great. So must see for me. Go see it. Hope you enjoy it. And if you think I'm crazy, please let us know. But yeah, in a moment we'll tell you how you can let us know. But for now, Stephen Miller, if people are going to find you throughout the week, where can they do that?
They can go to twitter.com/sdavidmiller or sdavidmiller.com.
People can find me at ChristopherInRealLife.com or Twitter.com/ChristopherIRL. You can find the podcast over at thespoilerwarning.com, where you can get a bunch of the back episodes of the show. If you want to subscribe to the show, you can do so on Overcast, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or wherever podcasts are found. If you want to know when the episodes go live, you can follow us at Twitter.com/SpoilerWarning or like us at Facebook.com/TheSpoilerWarning. If you want to get a hold of us directly so you can tell us that I was crazy or that you agree with us, you can send an email to fans@thespoilerwarning.com, or you can use the contact form on our site. Music for this episode will come from the soundtrack to Overlord and likely get us a copyright claim on YouTube for the episodes that are being put there. But that's all fun and dandy. But yes, we are going to take
Good luck
off.
equalizing that.
So we are going to take off. We are going to go record some more reviews for you. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and we will see you in the next review. Bye.